Okay, today's math lesson is going to be lesson 12, session 3. It's in your November 3rd folder. We are still talking about ratios and ratio concepts. So we need to understand how to find a ratio and then what to do with those ratios once we found them. All right, same and different. So there are 4 red apples and 3 green apples. You have to decide, are any of these the same or any of these different? So we can create ratios with this information. 4 red apples, 3 green. So red apples, I have 4, right? Green, I have 3. I have a total of 3 plus 4 would be 7, right? 7 apples. So I can create ratios of red to green, green to red, red to total, green to total, etc. And then we talked about the other day how some ratios are part to whole and some ratios are part to part. For example, 4 to 3 is a part to part ratio. It doesn't have the total. 3 to 4 is a part to part ratio. So A and B are similar or the same in the fact that they are both part to part ratios. C and D, this one has a part to whole. This one has whole to part. So they both include the whole, but they're not the same type of ratio. C is a part to whole, whereas D is a whole to part ratio. There are other ways in which they are similar and different, but those are the ones that I really wanted to draw out your attention to have you look at how they relate to each other in that part to part versus part to whole or whole to part relationship. All right, there are some more start problems here. And what I want you to do is I want you to do these on your own. These are all questions from our TE21 that we took. And these are from a section that you would not have had a calculator for. So typically you would not have had a calculator for it, but I don't mind you checking your answers with a calculator if you have one at home or if you want to use one on your computer. So you are going to divide here using your steps for long division. So 59,840, you would divide 59 divided by 44 would be 1 minus 44. So we would follow our steps for long division here. Drop the 8, right? So you're going to keep following those steps until you get your answer. And then you can check it with a calculator, or you can come back to the video and take a look. Number 5, we have our keep, change, flip algorithm that we use. So we keep 5/6, change the division to multiplication, and then flip our second fraction. So then we multiply the top, 24 times 5, and we multiply the bottom, 6 times 5. And we will get an answer there. And then we don't leave it as an improper fraction. It will be an improper fraction, but we won't leave it that way. So make sure you change it to a mixed number. And then for number 6, the biggest thing is making sure that you line up your place values. So when we are adding or subtracting decimals, that is when our place values become extremely important. Otherwise, we don't have our decimal lined up correctly. So we want to put zeros in for places where we don't have values, so that we know how to line everything up and keep it in place. So then you just add, starting in the lowest, 2, 2, 4, bring your decimal down, and you just keep going until you get to your answer. By the way, final answer on your division, I believe it should be this, 1,360. If you keep adding here, 6, 4, 146, and 422 thousandths. 6 times 5 is 30. And then if we did 24 times 5, 5 times 4 is 20, 0 carry your 2, so we would have 120. 120 divided by 30 is going to be 4. So those are your final answers for those questions. All right, number 1. When Akiko rides her bike to school, she travels 1 mile for every 6 minutes. Does this ratio mean it takes Akiko 6 minutes to get to school? Explain. Now, if you would like to or prefer to work in your textbook for this, this is textbook page 277. And this is something that I'm taking a grade on. So make sure that when you work these, that you do turn them in, whether it's on the computer or out of your textbook. So when Akiko rides her bike to school, she travels 1 mile for every 6 minutes. Does this ratio mean that it takes Akiko 6 minutes to get to school? The thing that I would be asking myself is, how far away is her school? Is it 5 miles? Is it 1 mile? So no, this does not mean that. It just means that every mile is 6 minutes. But we don't know how long or how far away the school is. So we don't know time or distance to the school. All right. So make sure that you have answered that question to the best of your ability and explain. Now, I won't go over every single one of these questions with you. I will go over some, but not all of them. All right. So, number 2 says a store sells variety packs of granola bars. The table shows the type of bars in each pack. So, the table shows the type of bars in each pack. So, if I add all of these together, that's my total number of bars, right? So, I have 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 3 more is 8 bars in each pack. So, 8 per pack. That's what I have. Mason says that for every 7 bars in a pack, there is 1 cinnamon bar. Well, there is 1 cinnamon bar for every 7 bars in a pack. So you decide, do you agree or disagree, and explain. And I will ask that you do that one on your own. So, is there 1 cinnamon bar for every 7 bars in a pack? And then you have to explain that. Number 3, Bridget is filling welcome bags for several new students. Each bag gets 1 magnet. The ratio of magnets to pencils, so magnets, pencils, that's what we've got right in the bags. So magnets is 1 to pencils is 6. Then the ratio of erasers, or there's something new, right? To magnets, we already know magnets is 1, right? But erasers are 2 because of the 2 to 1. So we have 1, 6, and 2. Those are our quantities. Those are our amounts. And you could draw shapes for these instead of writing numbers. All right, so you could have 1 circle. You could have 6 triangles. And then 2 rectangles or squares. Right, so magnets, pencils, and erasers. Which statement below must be true? Use a model to help explain your thinking. So the first point there says Bridget needs 4 more pencils than erasers. So erasers has 2, right? So if I take out 2 on my pencils, is that 4 more than my eraser amount? And if that's true, then you would just mark true next to it. And then you decide if the next statement is true. You would decide Bridget needs 3 times as many pencils as erasers. So here's pencils, right? 3 times as many pencils as erasers. Erasers is 2. 3 times that, is that going to be 6? So you would mark true or false on that one. Number 4, a national park has 2 types of bears, grizzly bears and black bears. A scientist reports that 9 out of 12 bears she tagged are black bears. So we have black bears. So black bears, we have 9, right? 9 out of the 12 bears tagged are black bears. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? And it has 2 types of bears, black bears and grizzly bears. We have a total of 12 because 9 out of 12 bears, right? So altogether we have 12. Well, we already have 9, so that leaves 3 more for grizzly. And it says draw a model that compares the number of black bears tagged to the number of grizzly bears. Well, that's what I did over here. I drew my model. Part B says, use your model to explain what the ratio 9:3 represents. Well, 9 is my black bears, right? Grizzly bears is 3. So it represents black bears to grizzly bears. Part C, Jelani says that for every one tagged grizzly bear, there are 3 tagged black bears. Use your model to explain why Jelani is correct. So we know she's correct. A 1:3 for grizzly to black bears. 1:3. If I look at my original model, I'm going to rewrite that. So grizzly to black bears, 1:3 is what she says. Original model is 3:9. Are those two ratios equivalent? And you have to explain that. And you can use your model to do that. So when you're doing that using a model, you start grouping things. Could you group one triangle for every 3 circles? Could you do that and have no leftovers and have all of your groups be equal? So you make that decision and explain why she is correct. Okay, that brings us to the exit ticket. I'm going to read through it with you. I'm not going to explain the whole thing. I want you to do most of this one on your own. A store sells 1 smartwatch for every 8 smartphones. How can you use ratios to compare these quantities? Include a model in your explanation. So we could compare our amounts. We could compare smartwatches. Let's do smartwatches to smartphones, right? We could compare smartphones to smartwatches. So we could do some comparisons with ratios. And smartwatches would have a certain ratio, and smartphones would have another ratio, right? You need to pick one. You pick which one you want to do, either smartwatches to smartphones or smartphones to smartwatches. You're going to write the ratio and then draw a model for that. And remember, we would need our quantities here. So if I was doing smartphones to smartwatches, if that's the one I chose, then smartphones is 8, smartwatches is 1. So I have 8:1, and then I would need to draw my model. I would need to pick a shape for smartphones and a shape for smartwatches and draw the correct amount in my model. That brings us to the end of today's lesson. Don't forget to hit the turn in when you're done over in the corner here, up in the top, this turn in button here. Don't forget to hit that because this is a graded assignment. If you did it in your workbook, just give me your workbook page. This is the homework assignment. So the majority of the students in my classroom had time to finish this in class. So you can work on it here on here, or this same assignment is in Schoology, and I'll show you where that is in just a moment. You can look back at the practice pages and do some extra practice. So that's any of the green pages in lesson 12. So from session 1, 2, or 3, any of those green pages that you want to work on for extra practice, you're welcome to do that. It's not a requirement. But if you have the time, it is something to look at. So we have a homework page here. And it's a fluency page. And like I said, you can do it right here on this and just turn it in with this assignment if you want to. But if you would like a larger version of this, then that is what the other assignment in the November 3rd folder is for. So it says fluency practice here. This is another assignment that I'm taking a grade on. So when you open it with Cami, it will be larger for you. And I am not going to show you how to do these because this is something that I want it to be independent. I guess I really shouldn't have called it homework as much as independent because, like I said, students were able to do it in class. And then if they didn't finish, it was homework, but it's just independent work for you. All right. So it covers what we've talked about with ratios so far. If you have any questions, just let me know and I can try to help you out a little bit with it. But I do want you to do this one as much independently as you can. So those are your 2 assignments for today, for November 3rd. When you are done, make sure you have turned everything in, and I will see you next time.